friends, Dawn McVey here. I just wanted to pop in and share a few quick tips with you for how I like to approach stamping with a new cover-up stamp, or really any background stamp for that matter. Hopefully these tips will help you get the most bang for your stamping buck and will also help to let your creativity really flow. By utilizing some of these tips, hopefully you can be a lot more productive with your card making time, because let's face it, having a pretty pile of cards in your stash ready to give away when you need them always feels good. And hopefully these tips will help you to enjoy the creative process with your cover-up stamps even more. So when I get a new cover-up stamp, the first thing I like to do is go through and stamp a whole bunch of different varieties using that same stamp, but with different papers, different mediums, different inks. And so I thought I'd give you a few ideas for that today. I did this recently with the cover-up hexagons. Previously I've had the cover-up diamonds as well as the quatrefoil. And it's just a really fun way to get your creative juices flowing. And when you're done, you have a whole bunch of stamped backgrounds that are ready for you to either use as backgrounds, or you can go ahead and use them as die cuts as well. To get started, I positioned the stamp in my Misty stamping tool, and that way I can just stamp one right after another, and it makes it a nice, quick and easy process. To get started, I like to go through with white cardstock and just stamp the image in a variety of colors, just on white ink. Next, I like to go through with colored cardstock and use a variety of different inks on those cardstocks. And you can even play with some different techniques in this case. And keep in mind, these are just scraps that I've got that I will either fold and use as an actual card base, or I will cut these down and use them on the front of the card as a background, or I might even die cut these and have maybe a die cut tag or some other die cut shape out of these same pieces. But by stamping a whole bunch of different colors and varieties all at the start, it's just a great way to have a stash ready so that when you do sit down to actually make cards, you've got a lot of pre-stamped pieces ready to work with. Another thing you can do is, rather than, like in the case of these two, I was very careful to ink the whole stamp, and I stamped it a couple times to make sure it was nice solid coverage. Another thing you can do is just be really quick with your inking on the stamp so that you leave some spots so that it's kind of a nice splotchy, weathered, almost kind of an antique look. And adding to this, if you wipe your stamp down first with like a wet wipe and leave your stamp kind of damp, then you can ink again really spotty with your ink pad. Just tap it a few quick times, and not only will you get kind of that spotty weathered look, but you'll also get some extra kind of splotchy, some splotchy places where the water or the moisture from the wet wipe mixes with the ink and creates kind of some extra little puddles, which is also kind of a neat way to add yet a little bit more of that kind of distressed look. Another thing you can do is take your white ink pad and go through and stamp white ink on a variety of colors, which, as you can see, creates a really different look. It's nice and subtle. Gives you just a nice little subtle background with just some, this is fresh snow ink from Paper Tray. And then one other thing I really like to do is to pull out some watercolor cardstock and heat emboss some different embossing powders on watercolor cardstock. I don't know if you can see that texture there. This is just white. I pull out my variety of different embossing powders, but I've got white. You can use clear. As you can see on these, I did some gold, which creates a really shiny, pretty finish. And then I'll set these aside, and then these will be ready for me to go through and watercolor whenever I have a minute to sit down and actually do some coloring. And then one other thing that's fun to do with embossing powder, if you've got any of these colored powders, I've got quite a few that I just rarely pull out, and I really need to use them more often because they create a really fun look. In this case, I used the grapefruit color on two completely different colors of cardstock and what a drastically different look they achieve, and yet it's the same embossing powder. So really pretty to fun. Have some fun mixing and matching your powders with your papers to create a variety of different looks. And again, these are great for backgrounds, or I could die cut any of these panels to create some really neat kind of textured embossed die cuts. Okay, so hopefully I've inspired you to use your cover-up stamps in a few new ways. Or if you don't have any of these stamps, you might want to add 1 or 2 of these crafting workhorses to your stash. They're super versatile and can be used in a lot of different ways. Have a great day, friends. Thanks for watching.